The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network. Crap. For this Tuesday, the 7th of May, my lines disappeared. I am joined by my joint host, Tarra Simpson. Oh, crap. Hold on. I was doing so good. The video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the awesome intro track originally recorded by the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I'm joined by my amazing joint host, Tarra Simpson, along with the one and only Buffo of Various, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tarra.
Well, hello, Hobbies, and hello, everyone. I hope you've all had another great week. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad. There's Bufo.
I hit the wrong button and it kicked me out on the other computer. It's just been a bad day today.
Tech stuff, man. I tell you.
However, Bufo's just picked out a lot of cool stories today.
He absolutely has.
And I'm so excited. This first one, it touches what a lot of people struggle in their lives. It touches on depression, and it comes from Medical News Today. Oh, man. There it is. Psilocybin found in magic mushroom shows promise as a treatment for depression. And this is written by Tony Hicks.
Yeah, so in a new study, psilocybin from so-called magic mushrooms showed better results fighting depression than a placebo, niacin, or microdoses of psychedelics. Researchers also reported that psilocybin showed greater effects on people with secondary depression related to an underlying disease. They did note that the findings were limited due to the lack of diversity among study participants. So a new study from scientists in the United Kingdom says psilocybin, the active ingredient in so-called magic mushrooms, is an effective treatment for depression. Published in the BMJ, the peer-reviewed research states that psilocybin was a more effective treatment of depression symptoms among study participants than the placebo's niacin, which is vitamin B, for those who don't know, or other microdoses of psychedelics. The study authors said in a statement that depression affects an estimated 3 million people worldwide and is the leading cause of disability. Researchers said psilocybin has shown promise in reducing symptoms of depression after 1 or 2 doses with few side effects and no current evidence that the substance causes addiction. They also said published studies to date haven't examined factors that could moderate psilocybin's effects, including dosage, type of depression, past use of psychedelics, and publication bias. Wow.
Wow. Details from the study on psilocybin and depression. The team of UK researchers searched databases for randomly controlled trials comparing psilocybin as a depression treatment to other substances. They also looked at studies where psychotherapy was used under both the experimental and the control conditions to distinguish psilocybin's effects from those produced by psychotherapy. They settled on 7 trials relevant for their analysis that involved 436 subjects with depression. 52% were female and 90% were white. The researchers measured changes in depression scores using a statistical method called Hedges. A Hedges score of 0.2 indicates a small effect, 0.5 a moderate effect, and 0.8 a more large effect. The researchers reported that the psilocybin treatments that change in depression scores was significantly greater than those shown by proven comparator treatment, with an overall Hedges G of 1.64, a score that indicates a large effect favoring psilocybin. Wow.
Wow, that's crazy, eh? Further analysis showed greater improvements with secondary depression related to an underlying disease than primary depression, assessed with a self-reported scale rather than clinician-assessed scale. Older age and previous use of psychedelics were also correlated with greater improvements. The study authors said high levels of variations between trials resulted in a low certainty of evidence to support a strong antidepressant effect of psilocybin. Generalizability of findings was limited by the lack of diversity in study participants. The researchers also said pre-treatment expectations and the extent to which participants knew they were being treated with psilocybin or a placebo were also not measured. In clinical trials, people received psilocybin in a calm, comfortable room with soothing music and supervised by a psychotherapist, a situation the researchers said was unlikely to be achievable in a healthcare system.
Wow. Oh my gosh. The obstacles to the psilocybin in clinical practice. The scientists concluded that although their findings are encouraging for psilocybin's potential as an effective antidepressant, issues such as legal safeguards, as well as cost and lack of regulatory guidelines, need to be dealt with before psilocybin can be established in clinical practice. Researchers not connected to the study said in an accompanying editorial that research didn't answer questions such as psilocybin's effectiveness under real-world conditions. They said more information about potential effect modifiers is necessary. It could be delivered by pragmatic clinical trials and real-world data. The editorial authors also said there's still debate as to whether psychedelics can express antidepressant activity on their own, rather in comfort with specific forms of psychotherapy. They added that as analysis is using aggregate data that they couldn't differentiate between individuals most likely to benefit from psilocybin and those who might instead experience adverse effects. They concluded the study's findings support a prudent approach in both scholarly and public settings because more evidence is needed before any clinical recommendation can be made about therapeutic use of psilocybin.
Wow. Reaction to the study on depression and magic mushrooms. Dr. Akankasha Sharma is a neurologist, neuro-oncologist, and palliative medicine practitioner at the Pacific Neuroscience Institute in Santa Monica, California. Sharma, who wasn't involved in the research, told Medical News Today that there's still much to be learned about how psychedelics such as psilocybin change the brain. At this point, we know that altered states of consciousness can help patients face and process difficult emotions associated with their mental health conditions or disease. Sharma said, in this state, with the right guides, we can potentially reframe and accept our condition or find peace. These agents can contribute to neuroplasticity, which means that our brains can make new connections and change the way it is responding to stress and negative emotions. Sharma said psychedelics can shift perspective and help people think differently about life and death and bring spiritual peace and acceptance, which can be helpful for people experiencing cancer and depression.
Wow, learn more about managing anxiety in this. Oh, wait, that is a commercial. My bad. Much research needed on psilocybin. However, there are also downsides to treatment such as psilocybin. We still have a lot to learn regarding how it works and how it affects us, so there is always inherent risk with that, Sharma said. Opening our mind and heart in this manner cannot be done with expert therapists and support. Patients should be guided through this. Otherwise, they can experience anxiety, panic, confusion, and can have high blood pressure and cardiac side effects they may not be able to manage, but we also don't yet know any long-term effects. Amy Reichert, the Chief Innovation Officer at Pure Minds Neuropharma in Ontario, Canada, who wasn't involved in the research, noted that the study showed the effects of psilocybin treatment was much larger in those with secondary depression compared to primary depression. However, said that it was important to consider that the people with secondary depression were self-reporting symptoms as opposed to a more stringent clinician administered scale. Also, the root cause of secondary depression likely differs from the primary depression. With the secondary depression, patients enrolled in the clinical trials experiencing depression as a manifestation of their struggle with anxiety around the death from their diagnosis of a life-threatening illness, Reichert told Medical News Today. She said the ego dissolution associated with psychedelics taken at a hallucinogenic dose may be useful in a palliative care setting, particularly to help alleviate existential distress in those facing terminal conditions. Wow.
Wow. As the psilocybin was administered as part of a therapeutic program that also includes therapy, some of the variances may be attributed to the patient-therapist relationship that was provided as psychological support, Reichert said. However, in these studies, the placebo control group also received therapy. She added that a dose response effect was also shown with higher doses, 20 to 25 milligrams, showing greater effectiveness than lower dose, 10 to 15 milligram, which indicates the more pronounced hallucinogenic effect generated by high doses of psilocybin. The studies with secondary depression used 1 dose of psilocybin, whereas the studies with primary depression used 2 high doses or 1 high dose of psilocybin, Reihart said. Again, the greater effect size in secondary depression compared to primary depression may be due to the greater severity and duration of depressive symptoms in the primary depression patients, and that the secondary depression patients were experiencing a more situational depression. Interesting.
Wow.
And that's where that ends.
That is where it ends.
Wow.
I didn't read that last article out there for a second. I was like, oh.
Yeah. All you do is just scroll down along with us.
That would have just been so easy. I had to hear it. Bufo has the next article already. All right, this next journey is the one of the ones that I was very glad that was brought into, and this is taken off of lucid.news, and this is I arrived for my ibogaine journey ready to die. Now my inner child is free. And this is written by Joshua White. This is basically based off of his own story.
Yeah, so 3 months ago, I arrived at Beyond, an ibogaine clinic in Mexico, ready to die. That meant that in the most literal sense. Ibogaine is a powerful psychedelic dwelling in the root of a Central African shrub that is gaining notoriety in the West as a treatment for opioid use disorder and other indications. Ibogaine prolongs the space between heartbeats. Though the risk is low, it can and does kill people, and we don't fully understand the reasons why particular individuals may be at risk. I no longer had to speculate what I'd do if I believed I had a week left to live. I had done it. I had put my affairs in order and gone on long walks. I had journaled. I had told my chosen family I loved them and asked them to light a candle for me during my journey. I also took stock of the life I'd lived for the last 46 years. I felt good about it, but I also felt imprisoned by deeply unhealthy patterns that for decades had caused me, some of those around me, so much pain. I felt confident that those patterns had originated in my childhood, but despite many years of therapy, their origins felt out of reach, obscured by a fog of disassociation and inflamed memories. Deep down, I knew that I had to liberate myself from these patterns. I had to die, and I was ready. I love astronomy, and I often think about the Big Bang, that singular cosmological event that was set in motion the laws of physics in such a way as to bring our world into existence. What was my Big Bang? I often wondered. What event or set of circumstances had set in motion that seemingly immutable emotional laws that controlled my life and brought my world into being from the shadows of my subconscious? Wow, okay.
Right. So basically, he starts his ibogaine journey. 2 days after arriving at Beyond, I lay back in bed, ready for my journey. By all appearances, I was in a hospital room, though something about this one was different. It was the energy. Doctors and nurses tended to me, but their movements, their expressions, their words, they all radiated with compassion. They had been true from the moment I arrived at the retreat center. The air felt infused with kindness. How is this even possible in a medical setting, I wonder? How did the nurse to whom I handed my urine sample seem to shine with the light of the Buddha? As my anxiety moaned For the impending voyage, one nurse, Carla, gently slid a tube into the IV that had already been inserted into my vein, starting a drip of electrolyte fluid directly into my bloodstream. When she finished, she gave my arm the sublest, most tender pat as though I had been kissed by a feather. Then I continued with her other preparations. EKG sensors formed a constellation across my chest, and the wires from each of them shake across my body into, or snaked into the computer, which beeped intermittently. A blood measure monitor squeezed my left bicep automatically, inflating every few minutes. This by far the weirdest setting due any psychedelic I thought it, let alone the one sometimes described as the most powerful of them all. The moment finally came, and I was handed a plastic cup full of capsules. Holy shit, I said to myself as I swallowed. There are a lot of them. As the psychonauts will tell you, the time being taken a psychedelic feeling to kick in is like nothing else. It's liminal space. One foot remains in this world, the other dings over into the edge, with far faster, like star collapsing into a black hole. Time contorts. It crumbles. I heard the strange, beautiful Buiti tribal music in my ears, the feeling of a sandaled foot pounding the dirt floor, banging on the door to my subconscious. With my inner world, dust flew into the air. I knew what it was. It was it was every bit of pain I have never released, every trauma I buried. Ibogaine had arrived. I felt my cells ignite, starting with my feet and continued up to my neck. And I recalled the Ibogaine works on 17 different neurological systems. I can feel the molecule penetrating deep into my brain. My ego defenses mobilized, and I could tendrils of panic slithering up my body. Wow.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize it worked on so many different areas in the neurological system. But then the most magical thing happened. I could feel all the machines, all the wires, all the tubes. I could sense Carla's presence nearby, and they felt like pure love. This is what it feels like to be cared for, I thought, truly, deeply cared for. With that awareness, I was able to let go more fully and than I ever have into Ibogaine's loving arms. As I reflect on my journey, I have no doubt that the depth of my healing is a function of the completeness of my surrender. In the book, Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving, the psychologist Peter Walker writes, I tell my inner child that if time travel is ever possible, I will travel into the past and put a stop to my parents' abusiveness. In the course of all the things I say, like I'll call 911, I'll call CPS on them, I will grab their arms and pin them behind their backs the second they try to strike you. I will muffle them with a gag so they can't scream at you or even mumble their criticisms. I'll put bags over their heads so they can't frown or glare at you. I'll send them to bed without dessert. I'll do anything you want me to protect you. As it turns out, time machine rescue is possible, and the time travel vehicle is called Ibogaine. And so in that infinite psychedelic storm, I saw him. I saw my inner child crying out in agony and drowning in the ocean of pain. Here it was, all of the pain I had experienced as a child and had never grieved or released. Somehow, I recall the advice of one of my Beyond's coach, and I dove into that angry Red Sea and rescued him. I merged him with my soul, where he remains to this day. From that moment, lying in my hospital bed, I literally felt an infant lying on my chest, resting at last, resting. Wow.
So the ibogaine booster dose. 2 days later, during a booster dose, I started to worry. How will I take care of this beautiful child who sleeps on my chest? And what do I know about how to love and protect him? And then the answer came with the diamond clarity that the illuminates ibogaine missives. I'll care for my inner child just like Carla, my sweet nurse, cared for me. That was 3 months ago. Since then, during the sacred period in the aftermath of an ibogaine experience, where our brains can form neural pathways and lovingly let go of maladaptive ones, where we can hold open that cellar door into the basement of our subconscious and let sunshine stream in. I've done my best to model what Carl showed me and honor the great unfolding ibogaine that has precipitated. I've created space for me in my life, and I've put myself first. After 4 years of launching and running my nonprofit fireside project with hardly a moment off, I've rested, I've played, I've sung, I've taken time to start to build a secure, good enough, and loving connection with my inner child. I've breathed deeply and experienced the miracle of living fully from my parasympathetic nervous system for the first time. I've marveled at just how beautiful it feels to move through the world as a whole integrated person. I've come to my old patterns of friends, emissaries sent by a terrified inner child to pull my attention away from the present moment and back to him. My friend, the psychologist, Dr. J.J. Abraham, is right. Trauma really the opposite of presence. Now that inner child is with me, those friends can rest. They succeeded rather than feeling frustrated with them, as so often I did before my ibogaine experience. I now embrace them with my heart overflowing with gratitude. Thanks to them, my inner child is free. As it turns out, that life beyond my Big Bang. Wow.
Wow. Afterwards, some final thoughts. I recently heard a neuroscientist say that he believes ibogaine holds more potential for humanity than AI. I tend to agree. From what I already know, shelves of psychology textbooks will need to be substantially revised to reflect ibogaine's radical healing potential. But as worldwide interest in ibogaine surges, one of the plants containing ibogaine, the shrub, the Taberthani iboga, has become a cash crop and it has become endangered. The iboga shrub could be left for the Betwiti tribe of Gabon. For them, iboga is a foundation of their heritage, and losing it would be a blow to their cultural identity. Fortunately, there is a sustainable and renewable alternative, the Volcagenina africana plant, which is cultivated on plantations in Gabon and elsewhere in Africa, specifically for commercial use. This reduces wild harvesting and gray market sales of the Tabernath iboga, which a substance called volcagenin is extracted from the from the V and used to produce a semi-synthetic and high-purity ibogaine hydrochloride. This was the source of the ibogaine used during my time at Beyond. Beyond sustainably sourcing, further action is needed to ensure the benefits of ibogaine are shared with the Betwiti and their sacred traditions and lands are honored and preserved. Also, this medicine moves towards market, we should work to help ensure that the cost is not a barrier to access. Here are 3 specific recommendations. 1, everyone who benefits from ibogaine, including ibogaine retreats and participants, should donate to nonprofits like Blessings of the Forest, which supports Gabonese environmental and cultural institutions, indigenous communities, and administrative authorities committed to the preservation and sustainable development of Gabon's natural and cultural heritage. To support efforts like the one underway in the state of Ohio to use public funding to bring ibogaine to market. One way to do this is donating to nonprofits like the Reed Foundation that are seeking to secure public funding from Ohio's opioid settlement to begin ibogaine clinical trials for opioid use disorder. And 3, when it comes time, demand the federal and state governments via Medicare, Medicaid, and other programs cover the full cost of ibogaine treatment. Absolutely, I agree 100%. I like all 3 of those recommendations.
Right. Well, and they're good articles. It was I did on the experience, and man, I've never experienced it. I've thought about it. I've never in an area to where I could go through that type of experience, but I don't know if I could do the heavy stuff. To me, that's heavy, and I don't know if I could do that heavy of a soul searching.
Yeah.
So this next article comes from SciPost.org, and it is written by Eric Dolan, and its brain connectivity map shed light on synergistic effects of meditation and psilocybin. And that's what, like, these bigger stuff, like I can handle psilocybin, meditation, reaching the places I need to go with just that.
Right. Yeah. Some people need to just delve deeper, I guess. I'm pretty good with just, my cannabis, my psilocybin, and my microdose LSD. That takes care of 3/4 of my issues at this time. So I think we're good. I'm a little afraid of some of those heavy hitters, but maybe there's a reason. Maybe I don't need them, whereas some people do. I don't know. Recent scientific advancements have shed light on the potential synergetic effects of meditation and psychedelic substances. A study published in Scientific Reports reveals how psilocybin, a psychedelic compound, when combined with open monitoring meditation, may enhance the depth of insightfulness in experienced meditators. This enhancement appears to be mediated by changes in the brain's organizational patterns. Open monitoring meditation is a type of meditation that emphasizes the broad, non-reactive awareness of the content of experience from moment to moment. Unlike focused attention meditation, which narrows the attention on a single object such as breath or mantra, open monitoring encourages practitioners to remain aware of all experiences without attachment or judgment. This practice is thought to enhance meta-awareness, the awareness of awareness itself. Psilocybin is a naturally occurring psychedelic compound found in certain species of mushrooms, known for its ability to induce profound alterations in perception, emotion, cognitive processes. Psilocybin has been subject of both traditional use in ritual contexts and modern scientific research. In clinical settings, psilocybin has shown promise for treating various mental health disorders, including depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. Its effects include the disruption of normal thought patterns, potentially leading to increased psychological flexibility and openness.
The rationale for combining psilocybin with open monitoring and meditation in this study stems from a hypothesis about the complementary nature of their effects of the brain and consciousness. Both meditation and psychedelics are believed to alter the functional connectivity patterns with the brain. Meditation, through trained introspection and increased meta-awareness, and psilocybin, though its pharmacological impact on serotonin receptors, which significantly alters perception and thought, Researchers at the University of Zurich aim to investigate how the combination of psilocybin and meditation could influence brain connectivity during meditative process. They used a mathematical method known as topological data analysis to visualize and analyze the brain's activity. I was interested in the technical part of the topic because I am fascinated by how pure mathematics, especially topology, can be applied to extract important information from latent structures to data that is not apparent to other methods. Explained study author Brent Singer, a PhD in other pure mathematics. Psychedelic neuroscience and meditation is particularly interesting to me because I could see that there is a lot of research I needed to better understand this mechanism of these substances and techniques, and because I wish that I was able to use to help them in a beneficial way to individuals in society. Wow.
Wow. The study included 36 healthy, experienced meditators matched for age, sex, previous meditation experience, and dispositional mindfulness. The core of the study was a 5-day silent meditation retreat. On the 4th day of this retreat, participants were administered either psilocybin or a placebo during their routine meditation practice. To capture the effects of the interventions on brain activity, participants underwent functional magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI scans, both one day before and one day after the retreat. Each fMRI session included sequences in resting state, focused attention meditation, and open monitoring meditation. To analyze the data, researchers employed the MAPPER algorithm, a method used in topographical data analysis to dissect and visualize high-dimensional data sets. This algorithm constructs a graphical representation known as MAPPER shape graph, which captures the global and local structures of the data. By applying this algorithm, the researchers could map and quantify the relationships and dependencies between different meditative and resting brain states, revealing insights into how these states interact and overlap.
Wow, it surprised me that the subject-specific MAPPER graphs were at first sight the very different and did not seem to share many similarities. But when described and simplified using suitable graph measures, the optimal transport distance and centrality, their common structure was revealed and turned out to be quite stable across both groups. Singer said that, in other words, their common features were not obvious to spot out by the eye from the look for the subject-specific MAPPER graphs, but only after calculating their topological features. After the meditation retreat, there are notable increase in the degree centrality of the nodes associated with the open monitoring meditation. This suggests that these brain regions became more connected with the regions following the retreat and psilocybin intake. The closeness centrality of the nodes related to open monitoring meditation also increased after the retreat, which implies that these brain regions could disseminate information more efficiently across the brain network. A key finding from the study is that psilocybin significantly affected the brain's connectivity patterns. The optimal transport distance, a measure used to assess the similarity between different brain states, indicated that the psilocybin induced notable changes in how different meditation states are connected.
Neat. Specifically, participants in the psilocybin group showed greater shifts in the brain's functional architecture between the resting states and open monitored meditation compared to those in the placebo group. This suggests that psilocybin enhances the brain's ability to transition between different functional states during meditation. This increased differentiation was particularly marked in individuals experiencing positive derealization, a state where reality is perceived in a novel and often more meaningful way. Additionally, perceived insight was strongly linked to positive derealization, and models incorporating changes into the brain's connectivity offer better predictions of insightfulness than those considering positive derealization alone. The findings suggest that psilocybin may enhance the depth and quality of meditation by facilitating a more profound disengagement from ordinary consciousness and promoting a heightened state of openness and awareness. This could potentially make meditation practices more effective, particularly in inducing states of deep introspection and expanded awareness, which are often the goals of such practices.
The key finding is that meditation and psilocybin are likely to form a useful synergy that brings about insightfulness that they do by balancing each other's effects, Singer told Psychos. The research also highlights the advantages of topology to analyze data and uncover latent structures, Singer said. This particular method brings an alternative and useful way to look at brain imaging data. Well, the study provides evidence that psilocybin can significantly modify the cognitive and perceptual effects of meditation. There are limitations to consider. The participant pool considered entirely of experienced meditators, which limits the generalizability of the results. No broader populations, including novice meditators of individuals without any meditation experience. Additionally, the study sample size was relatively small, which could affect the statistical power and robustness of the findings. Long-term goal is to link the topological structures of the mapper-shaped graphs and related phenomenology and the useful function connectivity, similar to the work of Sagar et al. And Johannes et al. Singer explained another long-term goal is to do similar research with other psychedelics and understand their common and distinct features, particularly combining with meditation. Finally, it would be nice to create an understanding of the landscape of different psychedelics and meditative states and how they are related and how they interact.
Wow. The study psilocybin enhances insightfulness in meditation, perspective on the global topology of brain imaging during meditation was authored by Barrett Singer, Daniel Mellinger, Matthias Hirsch Hoffman, Lars Michaels, Michael Kometer, Lucas Schmigelski, Dario Dornbieri, and Eric Seppinger, and Franz X.
Wow.
And Mieland Scholdendenger. Wow.
That's so. That was an interesting article. The math graphing and figuring it out. You know, it's like, I mean, did they reach out to like the Zen people with the big sound bowls and all that other fun shit? Like, people that are used to and facilitated. You know, like how do you work all that? You know, it's you can't do these studies yourself nowadays. But it is medication time now.
It is time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll be back with more articles Bufo has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
Psychedelic Tuesdays on NOK Network. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Psychedelic Reporters. Bufo Alvarius is scouring the newswires for stories being reported in the mainstream media on the psychedelic front and passing them on to Hobbies, Puppets, and Tarra Simpson so they can bring them to you, our listeners, in this 60-minute video news podcast.
Tuesday evening news.
Join us for Tuesday evening news each week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all your news and information from the world of psychedelic medicine. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
Peace, news, and views on NOK Network. Patients everywhere advocating cannabis evolution with Kim Cooper and Sir Steve O. Joint hosts interview people in the grassroots and corporate cannabis space across North America and beyond. Sit down with patients, entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, and others share their journey with this medicinal plant. So join us for Peace, News, and Views. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where all consumption is medicinal consumption on NOKnetwork.com. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on social media and streaming sites including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble.
Put it away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh is a virtual gathering where consumers meet up or a toke and some laughs at 7 p.m. Eastern nightly. Originally aired on Info with Kim's social media page, the IWK 710 Daily Sesh is now also podcasted on NOK Network. Rotating joint hosts bring you a variety of content during this 30-minute virtual smoke sesh. Take a break from the stresses in life and put it away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. Podcasted nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NOK Network.
Hey, dudes and dudettes. Enjoy the show, man.
And we're back from our medication session live here on NOK Network, Psychedelic Reporters.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Alrighty, this next one goes up in up north area to our brethren from CBC. This is from CanadaStyleYahoo.com news. And BC nonprofit challenges Health Canada to end 50-year prohibition on magic mushrooms. And CBC wrote this.
Yeah, so this is really cool. A BC-based nonprofit organization is challenging Health Canada to end a nearly 50-year prohibition against accessing so-called magic mushrooms and the potent psychedelics they produce. Therasil, which advocates for the therapeutic use of the psychedelic compound psilocybin, spent months drafting proposed regulations for so-called magic mushrooms based on the same ones the federal government first created 20 years ago for medicinal cannabis. Therasil CEO Spencer Hawkswell said his organization sent a 165-page proposal to Health Canada's Director General, Jennifer Sachs. This is taking all of the bureaucratic processes, all the hard work that people put into cannabis, such as how to apply for a license if you want to grow it, and just making the exact same for psilocybin, Hawkswell said. The document the document deals with managing every aspect of licensing growers and sellers, from who can be involved, where they can be located, quality control, security, and packaging. There are also provisions in the draft for patients to register to grow their own, as well as a formula for calculating how much an individual can grow based on the amount of mycelium, the branch-like organism that produces the mushroom as fruit. Wow, isn't that cool?
Right. Some exceptions issued. Psilocybin is prohibited by Canada by the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, CDSA. The drug has been illegal since 1975, but just last year, the health minister started using authority under a section of the act to grant legal exemptions, mainly to people with terminal illnesses and treatment-resistant depression. To date, 64 patients and therapists have received legal exemptions from Health Canada, which are valid for 1 year. But the department acknowledges more than 150 applications it has received have gone unanswered. Oswell said Health Canada's Director General was open to receiving his organization's attempt at drafting a legal framework. I mean, they're giving exemptions to patients to find a substance on the street and who are unable to get help from a doctor and a therapist, he said. Oxwell said it is a safety issue that is entirely within Health Canada's mandate to consider. Paul Manley, Green Party for MP for Nanaimo, Ladysmith, and BC, hasn't seen the draft regulations, but he suggests regulating psilocybin is inevitable. The government initially with medical cannabis regulation had to be pushed through the courts, Manley said. Now I think they're starting to look at the research. The psilocybin can be used for a range of mental health issues, including PTSD and depression. Nathan Erskine Smith, Liberal MP for Beaches, East York and Ontario, a self-described decriminalization advocate, welcomes psilocybin regulation. He's hesitant to gauge how much backing the idea has, even in his own party, especially ahead of rumored election. But he said there is support across party lines. Post-election, I think there is room to continue to move conversation forward to see progress.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Health Canada is in a difficult position. I put that in quotes. Parasil isn't the only group eyeing regulations to make possession and use of psilocybin and the mushrooms which produce it a matter between doctor and patient. The Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies and the Canadian Psychedelic Association are also drafting their own regulatory blueprints for Health Canada to consider. Dr. Pamela Christoph is a founding board member of the CPA. I think Health Canada is in a difficult position, she said, and we think that that's because they've really gone through this really thoroughly and really thoughtfully. and that this will hopefully be a gift to them to have done their work for them. Jim Doswell is a former federal treaty negotiator with First Nations in BC, who has himself applied for a ministerial exemption to use psilocybin to aid in his therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder. He has offered Therapsil his insight into the regulatory process as the group was drafting its proposals. Doswell is under no illusion that Health Canada will act quickly or at all, and any suggestion for regulation, no matter how complete or comprehensive it may be. All they have to do is agree, but of course, it's never that simple. The bureaucrats will have to go over it with a fine-tooth comb, and then you will have the political side of it, Doswell said, referring to the perceived political consequences of legalizing a psychedelic that has been banned since 1974. Neither Health Canada nor its Director General were available to comment. The department's official stance is to endorse clinical trials as a means to further study psilocybin's potential benefits and risks. Advocates, however, say enough scientific studies have been done to warrant regulation now. I would agree with that. We know it's working.
Right. No, but this is exciting for you guys. I mean, it's if this takes effect and they start to change the leniences, I mean, that's actually beneficial. And if I remember correctly, was BC the first province that like started a lot of movements, right?
I do believe so. Yes, they have.
So I'm going to skip to this last one here, and then because I really wanted to get this one in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is from, I forgot to bring it up. This is from High Times, and this is about you women in psychedelics. And it's clinical trial to assess LSD microdosing for PMS. An Australian biopharma company said Thursday that it has received approval to begin a series of clinical trials for its LSD microdosing drug design as an aid to women's health. And this is written to us by Thomas Edward.
This is so cool. I'm stoked because, again, I microdose LSD myself for my own reasons, but this could be a game changer for so many women too. Mind Biotherapeutic Corp said that MB22001, a proprietary and self-titratable form of lysergic acid.
Lysergic?
Yeah, LSD, everyone. Designed for safe take-home microdosing, has been approved for take-home use in a pair of clinical trials. The trials in women's health aim to address a huge unmet need in effectively treating premenstrual syndrome, PMS, and premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD, without side effects of antidepressants and combined oral contraceptive pills often used in treatment, the company said in a press release. The company now has in its portfolio multiple phase 2B clinical trials underway in a series of world firsts, the press release said. This month, MindBio aims to present secondary data relating to its recently completed phase 2A trial of MB22001 in patients with major depressive disorder. The company has already met its primary endpoint using the global standard Montgomery-Åsberg depression rating scale to show a 60% drop in depressive symptoms and a 53% complete remission from depression by week 8 of treatment, the company said in its release. That is so exciting.
Right. The secondary presentation will report on post-treatment effects using the MADRS and several other vital clinical scales for measuring the effects of MB22001 on each clinical trial participant's mental health. The readouts are important to understanding the full impact on patients of this novel medicine, and if the results continue to be positive, strengthening the position of the drug as it progresses towards phase 3 clinical trials. As Benzinga explains, MindBio's thesis that it can be used actively during specific periods of the menstrual cycle with targeted dosing to treat negative mood symptoms. The thesis is based on 3 main facts. The acute dose day mood elevating effects of MB22001 have been demonstrated in MindBio's phase 1 trials, MindBio's phase 2A open label trial in depressed patients show long-term improvements in mood, and reports in the grade literature of people self-medicating of PMS, PMDD using LSD microdoses. Benzinga said premenstrual syndrome, APMS, is estimated to affect 25% of all women who menstruate, equivalent to 956 million women worldwide. A particularly severe form of PMS is termed premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD, which affects 3 to 8% of women who menstruate. Current treatments for these issues are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, given either continuously or daily during the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle. While SSRIs can be effective for some of the PMDD, approximately 40% of women with PMDD do not respond to the SSRIs, and common side effects of SSRIs when used for PMDD include nausea, decreased energy, somnolence, fatigue, decreased libido, and sweating. MindBio bills itself as pioneering clinical studies in the microdosing of psychedelic medicines to treat a range of medical conditions such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, panic disorder, chronic pain, and opiate addiction, and that invests in clinical research to discover potential new treatment options, and we aim to create novel medicines and treatment regimens from breakthrough microdosing studies.
Wow. The company provides more background on this year's clinical trials of MB22001. Phase 2A clinical trials completed in March of 2024 using MB22001 in major depressive disorder. The phase 2 clinical trial resulted in a 53% of depressed patients entering the trial being in complete remission after 8 weeks of treatment. Overall, there was a 14.1 drop in the MATTERS score. The MATTERS score is a global standard for measuring the severity of clinical depression. Overall, there was an impressive 60% drop in depressive symptoms at week 8 of the trial. The company explains, adding that it is just started dosing in a phase 2B depression trial. In this randomized active placebo-controlled trial, 90 patients with major depressive disorder will be given microdoses of MB22001 or an active placebo over an 8-week period. At the end of 8 weeks, all participants in the placebo and drug group will be offered an 8-week extension to ensure the placebo group has the opportunity to trial MB22001. It continues. A second phase 2 trial in late-stage cancer patients is also currently underway. The cancer study will evaluate the feasibility of conducting a randomized controlled trial comparing psychedelic microdose-assisted meaning-centered psychotherapy to standard meaning-centered psychotherapy in people who have advanced cancer and anxiety or depression. Participants in the trial will be randomized to receive psychotherapy alongside doses of either LSD microdose or placebo, MindBio said. The feasibility, acceptability, safety, and potential psychological benefits of this intervention will be assessed. Our findings will inform the development of a larger trial and provide an initial indication of the potential benefits of psychedelic microdosing in advanced cancer. Wow.
That was a really nice article. I enjoy that one. I like to see where that's going to lead us, and that's basically. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Networks and Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as other social media sites.
We certainly hope you enjoyed our update today on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, Tarra Simpson, and to Bufo Alvarius for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Good night.
Good night.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty